What's going on, everyone? I got a real special guest coming in right now. I got Trey Watson, linebacker, St. Louis Battlehawks. You've seen him around, seen him on the field making plays, stealing interceptions from Lucas Dennis. Trey, you know, we're obviously going to cover some of the football stuff, but the biggest thing is what you got going on with this charity, man.
Yeah, man. So just to say thanks for this awesome past year with the XFL and particularly to St. Louis for all the love the fans and the community showed us as a team. Um, I had these custom cleats that I got to wear each home game, done by a local St. Louis artist. His name is Brock Seals. You can check out his work on my social media pages and also on his profiles as well. But he was kind enough to be able to do the custom cleats for me, and I thought that an awesome way to give back would be to share those cleats back with this same fan base and really just the football fan base in general, um, by auctioning them off to support youth football, particularly through the Matthews Dickey Boys and Girls Club of St. Louis, and their youth football organizations. It's just again just a small way to give back for what was an awesome season. And what better way to do so than from the items that I got to wear during this extremely fun year.
I think it's real awesome. You talked about the fan interaction and how you were talking on the Markcast with uh, Brock reaching out to you through the DMs and whatnot, and how awesome it is, and how especially a city like St. Louis, we've been burned a little bit. I guess you could say two or three times by the NFL and whatnot, and to see someone who really doesn't even have ties to the state or the city to be able to give back, just I think sets the foundation for the league in the long run. Coming into St. Louis, what was that environment like? Like obviously you play in the XFL in 2020 and whatnot, but to finally see it and be a part of it for those games, how was that vibe for you?
From the outside looking in 2020, I was pretty envious of those games, man. They looked exciting. They looked like incredible environments to play in, and that's an aspect of football that definitely can get lost at times when you're not at the highest level in the NFL, at the biggest Division One, college level. So this year was really just I just wanted to soak it all in. Each home game was such an incredible experience. And there were organic relationships that we were able to build between the fans and us, and even the people working in the stadium, the people working in the hotels. Everyone was so nice and just so welcoming, and they all just seemed so eager for us to be there, which was extremely special for us. And it was I'm just appreciative that we were able to get to do that each and every week. Unfortunately, I had the wedding, so I had to miss one of those 5 home games, which sucked. But just each of those, the 4 experiences I was able to get personally in St. Louis, each one was extremely special. Us being able to get out into the communities a little bit before the games, that was special as well. And like I just said, you could just feel the energy that they brought and that they had for us as a team each and every time we were there.
I don't want to say unfortunately that you got married. Obviously it seemed going to Jamaica and whatnot. It was Jamaica, correct?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, never a bad place to go. But when Brock reached out to you, like, did that kind of just make it even a little bit more special to what this meant to the city? Because obviously he's done a decent amount of work. I believe Harrison Bader was when he was with the Cardinals was one of the people he did work. Does that just kind of make it even more of an amazing environment?
It did. I think, at first it kind of just caught me off guard because, people DM anyone randomly, and the amounts of spam we get. I didn't think that the messages from him were spam necessarily, but it just came out of nowhere. So it was definitely surprising. And then getting to talk with him a little bit, he showed me some of the work he had done even for back when the Rams were still in St. Louis. He had gotten a couple opportunities to make some stuff for some players, and it was really cool. And I just felt honored that he reached out to me to be able to do that, and was interested in collaborating in that way. So it definitely was special. And then seeing how much he's done, I think he's done something with the Cardinals this season, for one of their special days, for one of the games. So seeing how active he already was in the community, it made too much sense, and it turned out even better than I ever expected.
Now, I know you said that you reached out to the team as far as like what organization you wanted to do work with. When you actually started reading about like the Boys and Girls Club and the history of the uh, Matthews Dickey Foundation, did it kind of set you off guard a little bit about how much impact they've had? Because when I was doing the research, before talking to you, it was kind of crazy. Like, I've heard of it. I've been a part of organizations that have helped out the Boys and Girls Club, but these two gentlemen, got letters from, or excuse me, a medal from Reagan in like 1982 or something like that.
Yeah, no, I think, just when I was asking around, I wanted to make sure that, it was an organization that was, in the heart of St. Louis in terms of that's who they fed, all their charity work and did everything for. So it just made too much sense. And then, yeah, like you said, you get to read about, how deeply rooted they are in the city. And then, I referenced with Reed the story about, Ezekiel Elliott's mom reached out and said, "Hey, thank you for doing what you're doing. My son played for their team." And so many others, I'm sure, have similar stories of, especially for us, just through the game of football, what the Boys and Girls Club was able to do. Speaking with their director, I think they have 20 or so different youth teams that they're able to sponsor and keep going, which is awesome because each one of those teams and each one of those kids who gets the opportunity to play, they get to create memories, that last a lifetime, relationships, and learn about character building, what it means to be a young man, and so many different things that impact every aspect of their lives, not just being able to play football. And that's what it's all about. And the more of those memories we can create, the better. So I'm just thankful to be able to have found essentially the perfect organization for what I was looking for.
And that's something I kind of preface in the art in my little write up is while it's great to see you playing pro football and obviously everyone's goal is to get back to the NFL, the impact that you're having on the kids, in my opinion, always will exceed what you do on the field, whether you're, getting 200 interceptions a game or tackles a year or whatever, you know, to me, like, I think one of my final things was Trey might not get back to the NFL, but his cleats will when they're on the feet of the next Zeke Elliott or something like that. Is that the impact, obviously, that you're trying to reach with, if on a personal level, not so much the professional level, or do those two things kind of intertwine a bit?
Yeah, I definitely think there's an intersection there. And like the biggest thing is for me personally, the last couple years since leaving the NFL, I've been bouncing around. There's been COVID, there was the 2020 XFL, there was going to Canada and having to adapt and learn all these new things and deal with all these other issues, and then coming back down here. And to be honest, during that time period, you're not making a ton of money. It's not, man, I'm making, six figures, all this money that I can stash away and I can do these other things. No, it's, how can I essentially keep my career alive? So just to be frankly honest, I haven't had the time to be able to say, hey, what can I do for someone else to really give back? It's really just been trying to keep myself afloat. And at times that's extremely frustrating because, you do want to be able to do things other than just work out, just play football, and focus on yourself. So this was, one opportunity where I was able to sit back and say, hey, I really don't have the money myself to, donate tens of thousands of dollars or equipment or all these different things, but I'm able to impact, these kids in a different way, through something that, was special to me in the beginning with, the cleats that I enjoy. And now they're going to be special to the people who are able to buy them through the auction, and through that auction be able to allow other youth to be able to play football. So in a roundabout way, it's, I'm glad that I'm finally able to be able to do something to help out, because I feel like that part has gotten lost in a big way for me personally, just because I've been dealing with so many different things. I don't think everyone really understands when you're not in the NFL making a ton of money. you still have to work out to the same caliber that those NFL guys are working out because you're trying to get their spot, right? You have to eat the same way or better than those people are eating because again, you're trying to take their job. So you really have to do more than what they're doing because you have to impress enough to get from where you are to where they already are currently. And those are just a couple of the things that you have to focus on while also saying, hey, I only made money for 3.5, 4 months. I have to go get a regular job too. Oh, I have a wife, I have kids, I have a girlfriend, I have, other obligations. None of those things disappear because you're trying to, still play professional sports. So, just having the opportunity to be able to take a step back from all of that just for a little bit, and do something different is pretty special, and I'm glad I was able to do it.
I'm glad you talk about the financial part of football because, in my opinion, I don't think enough people understand because they all think everyone's making $330 million a year. I look at a guy who was in the XFL this year, like Kyle Slother, and I'm really big into analytics. I think in his NFL career, he's made like $1.7 million over 7 seasons or 5 seasons or whatnot. But and that's a really cool number until you actually break it down into like, okay, agents, a guy like him is traveling all the time. I don't think enough people get that. And, guys who go to Canada, you're not leaving Florida, your mortgage in Florida, or your apartment in
Mm-hmm.
Florida. Like, I don't know the in and outs of that, but, the amount of strain that must put on the family is pretty, pretty monumental. So even like to see you were able to get married and whatnot, that I think that says a testament about the league. Like it is a family fan first league.
No, absolutely. And the coaching staff and my teammates were extremely supportive of a unique situation. Obviously, I kind of told them, I said, hey, I wasn't planning on being in the XFL when we set up this wedding. I was in the CFL at the time, and was hoping to get back to the NFL. So you know, it's here, and we gotta do it. Family certainly comes first anyway, and they were supportive of that, and that's something that somewhere else maybe they wouldn't have been. It just depends on who you're dealing with. But yeah, man, I think that part of just the volume of what comes into being, a professional athlete and you're not at that top tier level of any sport. There's just so many factors that come into play. Not only are you making sacrifices to do all these different things, but like you said, your family has to say, hey, we're going to support you in doing this, but I'm going to have to take on more as well. Our kids are going to have to be, potentially away from their parents for extended periods of time, and those are all things that certainly get lost when all you see is on Saturdays or Sundays someone comes on TV and they're throwing a pass, catching the ball, getting sacks, whatever that may be. There's a lot that goes into all of that.
I think that's some of the best things with anytime I talk to a player is how relatable it is to anyone, to an extent of like just kind of that daily grind of getting with it. Like, you know, the highs and lows in anyone's career, especially yours, like transferring to Maryland after, a pretty good career at Illinois, short stint with Miami, the XFL, in Dallas, and everything's working out, and then everything happens, and then you're like, oh my god, like going to the CFL, and then obviously you were traded and whatnot, and then finding that stability, and then once more, like was it's a lot, and I give guys like you so much credit now. Before, when you had the whole situation in Montreal, like when you see the XFLs coming back in that 2022, first round of drafts comes in November, was there anything in the back of your head like, maybe it'd be good to go back down south and play in the states?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, part of me being in this world of not being in the NFL and having to essentially just make it work day by day, with these different leagues and these different opportunities, you have to be maximally aware of what's going on. I actually don't have an agent myself, so I have to be fully aware. I have to communicate. I have to do all the things that encompass essentially keeping your career alive. So, from the beginning, I was definitely involved in, what was going on with the XFL, what information were they putting out. So I was aware. I was also like you mentioned, dealing with my own hurdles in the CFL at that time, going through some ups and downs for a variety of different reasons, right when I kind of thought I was gaining some momentum up there. So, I kind of had to sit back and say, all right, what makes the most sense for my immediate future? Um, and in large part of that is just being, hey, can I be relatively closer to home, not having to deal with converting salary? The XFL's, league window is January to what the championship was, May 13th, versus being gone from May all the way through November potentially. And that made, just a lot more sense for me, especially considering the way that my time ended this past year in Canada. So when the opportunity came to make the jump, I had to do everything possible to make sure that, I secured that opportunity.
I think that's something that gets lost as well that you talked about was the exchange rate. Obviously, not all numbers are created equal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, once it was officially official with the coming to St. Louis, talk about if you can, working with Coach Stack at first and then going to Coach Claiborne and the overall, vibe of 2020 versus 2023 and whatnot. Because you had some injuries up there as well. Like, how was the training staff with everything? And obviously, you played hurt for the majority of the season, I assume.
Mm-hmm. I think once I knew I was coming to St. Louis, the key was trying to get as healthy as I could. Following what had happened up in Canada, I knew I was never going to be 100% just because that timeline was essentially so accelerated. Um, but I think compared to 2020, everything really was run extremely smooth. This time around, last time around we did the hub format in terms of our training camp. Was the whole league was in Houston, and then we dispersed to our cities once the teams were finalized. Obviously this time we just stayed in a hub the whole entire time, so it wasn't different for me in terms of I had kind of dealt with that environment, and knew what to expect. Had some familiar faces from the previous version of the XFL and also just from playing all over the world at this point. Had some familiar people with the coaching staff as well, so that helped. But I think the transition to 2023 went extremely smooth overall from that aspect. The league provided what guys needed in terms of you know off the field care, whether it's training, rehab, whatever. They did their best to provide what was needed facility wise for playing. Um, you know, not going to say it's NFL or even Division I caliber, but it's enough to be able to sustain what you need to sustain. And at the end of the day, also as a professional athlete, you have to put that onus on yourself to make sure that you're prepared for the next Saturday, the next Sunday. To be frankly honest, that's all some guys really are focused on is how can I get to the next game day. People don't, understand the pain, the nagging injuries, what guys have to do to be able to look the way they do on Saturday or Sunday. That time, those 6 days in between can be extremely rough for a lot of guys, no matter where you're at or what level you're playing at. Once you get to the professional realm, everyone's hurting to some degree. Some guys a lot more than others. Um, but you got to be able to make it happen. At the end of the day, you got to go get paid.
I think that's something that gets lost is the amount of wear and tear that you had prior to 2023. And, a guy that we're seeing playing football right now, McLeod Bethel Thompson, he played 20 games with the Argos and then now he's midway through right now. So it's definitely like, do you feel like, I don't want to say you didn't give it your best effort, but with you not being 100%, you kind of felt that extra, like, that day of recovery was very important to you as you were talking about previously?
Yeah, absolutely. It's also unique for the guys. McLeod would be one of them. Darnell Sankey, who came from Sask, would be another one. Guys are playing 2 football seasons in 1 calendar year. Now, when you do that as a little kid, it's not the same, clanging and banging as being a grown man and playing at the highest level like this. Um, so bodies aren't really meant to be doing the things that we do on the field at all, let alone 20, 30 times in 1 year. So definitely the rest days were even more vital. Start taking it literal when they say get off your feet, and some days not even moving at all. If that's what you need to do to get better. So certainly would say that I was never the best version of myself this year just because of what happened. Um, Still glad and thankful that I was able to give everything that I did have each and every time I got the opportunity. And that's what now having a true off season is about. Getting back to true 100% and really improving the starting point, and then seeing, now how can I produce moving forward.
Well, Trey, obviously it's been a wild journey for you. Kind of wrap it up right here. I don't want to take too much of your time. Is there any final thoughts you guys you want to put out to people watching this right now, whether it be with charity or football or anything like that?
Absolutely. Definitely. If you're interested, please check out the charity auction. The cleats are pretty cool. Had some looks inspired from some Jordans, some Kobe's, some Off-White Air Force Ones. So if you're into shoes or style or anything like that, definitely go check those out. Feel free to either bid on a pair or just donate to support the Matthews Dickey Boys and Girls Club of St. Louis youth football. I certainly appreciate it, and I know those kids will as well. It means the world to be able to give that opportunity to someone else. But beyond that, just want to keep reiterating, say thank you to St. Louis for what was an awesome season, and look forward to hopefully being able to do it again in 2024.
And Trey, where can everyone find you at?
So I'm on basically all social media. Twitter, you can find me. Just search Trey Watson. I'm there. Instagram would be Trey_Watson33 as well. And then you can find me on Facebook. I'm in all the St. Louis Battlehawks fan chats as well. Want to share as much as I can with them. Like I said, just continue to show that appreciation for an awesome fan base. But that'd be it.
Well, guys, you heard the man. I'm going to put the link in the description. You can find Trey on social media. Um, Special shout out to Brian Stoll for making this all happen. Really appreciate you coming on, Trey, and looking forward to seeing where your career goes next. Love to see you in the NFL, for everything, but I wouldn't be shedding too many tears if I saw you at the Dome this year.
I appreciate that, man.
All right, guys. Appreciate everyone tuning in. Y'all have a great day.